Welcome to Enjoy the Journey podcast, where we interview expert entrepreneurs and thought leaders to help guide you in pursuit of financial freedom. Presented to you by Jackson Milan, the Wealth Mentor, where we help service-based business owners remove cash flow bottlenecks, maximize their profits, and turn business profits into personal wealth. G'day guys, this is Jackson Milan, the Wealth Mentor, and we're here for another episode of the Enjoy the Journey podcast. And I've got an amazing guest with me today, Tracy Brinkman from the Darkhorse Entrepreneur. And we're introduced by a mutual friend of ours, Jake Anderson. I was on Jake's podcast. He said, "You've got to meet my friend, Tracy. He's doing some amazing stuff. He's got an amazing podcast, and you guys are really going to hit it off." And we did. We had a great conversation, and there was some really great similarities between our journeys, the kind of things that we've gone up against throughout our entrepreneurial careers, that I really wanted to take the opportunity to showcase Tracy's amazing story, but amazing skill set to help you guys crush your goals in life and business. So Tracy, thanks for joining us, mate. How's things with you?
Hey, Jackson, man, things are rocking and rolling over here. And I hear you're doing some great things on your little excursion, right?
That's it, mate. Yeah, we're now 3 months into our year traveling around Australia, and we're living the dream.
That is so awesome. I'm a big fan of traveling. It's funny, my wife and I, we both like traveling. We'll usually take the time in the summer to go around and see the festivals that are going on. Of course, over the last year, most of those have been shut down. So we're waiting them to open back up so that we can start doing that. We incorporate that travel with the music we enjoy so much.
I love that, mate. Fantastic. So, Tracy, tell me a little bit about you and what you do, mate.
Well, these days I've been really focused on, I narrowed down onto the podcasting arena. I launched my second podcast last year and it's doing very well. That's how we got introduced, like you mentioned. And inside of that, though, I've been leveraging a lot of the skills I've gained over the years, in internet marketing and social media marketing. And I come from a varied background, and we can go there if you want to. But it's all about what I call helping podcasters, and for me, small businesses, be seen. I think so many of them, they spend that money creating that brand image. And I liken it to my Coca-Cola days. I had this beautiful neon sign. Remember, the Coca-Cola neon signs used to be everywhere, at least here in the States. And I said, imagine if you spent all that money creating that beautiful sign and you left it in your basement. It's awesome that you have a beautiful website and amazing graphics and a killer icon. But if I don't see your webpage and I don't see any of that good stuff, then it's not doing you any good. So let's get you in front of the Jacksons and the Tracys and the Johns and the Jakes out there that will buy your product and engage with you as a business.
I love that, mate. Fantastic. Well, I think this is so important. I think I know that when I first started my business, I'm like, I'm going to build this great website and do all of this stuff, and people are just going to come and find it. And it's a sea of websites and content out there that most people aren't just going to stumble across your content and your website. So you really got to be intentional about it. But the thing I really like about what you do, Tracy, is this whole idea of this dark horse. And that really resonated with me as soon as I saw it, and I identify with that. So talk to us about this whole idea of the dark horse. Where did this come from, mate?
Oh, it came from my life's journey, actually. My life was a roller coaster. I've had three major dips. And, one dip would have been getting on the wrong side of the drug scene. Another dip would have been the loss of an 18-month-old daughter. And then third dip would have been, bankruptcy and divorce. And each one of those were at different stages in my life. And each one of those, I learned different lessons and stepped forward into who I was. And it was just that, for me, that's that dark horse mentality. We know inside, you know what? I can knock this out of the park, and I'm going to knock this out of the park. But usually those around us, and some of them even in our inner circle, they don't believe us. And even if they did believe, I think the real concern is because they care so much, they try to pull us away from those dreams that we could fail at. They don't want to see us fail and be hurt and whatever may come along with that. So they say, well, are you sure you want to do that? You want to risk your 9-to-5 cubicle existence to go out on this? You got to grind away. And I hear you work harder as an entrepreneur than you do in corporate America, and which is probably true. But yeah, it comes from that mentality of, you know what, each one of my dips in life, I faced it head on. I looked back into the what I call the demon, the dark side, and I identified what caused me to fail, stumble, bumble, fall, face plant, and picked those learnings up and just walked forward. And if you stop learning, you kind of stop living, right?
100%. Look, I really resonate with that. I've endured a lot of adversity in my lifetime. I talk very openly and honestly about it. But I feel that many people, like in kind of by societal norms, they can sometimes be put off a little bit from people like us who do have these kind of, whether it be rags to riches stories or coming back from the depths of adversity. And when we
Hmm.
talk openly and honestly around those experiences, like situations of, say, substance abuse or losing a child so young and going through a divorce or a bankruptcy, it makes people feel a little bit awkward. And I think people very much shy away from these adverse situations, whereas people like
Hmm.
us really own these situations and we use
Yeah.
them as rocket fuel to be able to achieve our goals. Why do you think that is, Tracy? Why do you think people like us own these experiences and other people shy away from them?
I think the folks that shy away from it, it's all about the fear. Maybe they have faced that adversity, but they haven't faced the lessons that come from it. Look, I'm a big fan of it's not failure, it's feedback, right? Now, I'm not saying you need to go out there and lose a child or get involved in drugs or get divorced or bankrupt to learn the lessons. But if you've gone through some sort of trouble in your life, it could be a little trouble or a really big trouble. There's a lesson there. And you're going to have to muster up that courage to turn around and look into that abyss to learn those lessons. It's the old adage there's a silver lining in every cloud, right? And there's a cloud for every silver lining. So I think so many of the folks, they're afraid to face their fears, to face their demons, and open up. I was just talking to a lady today who was asking me to help lead a men's coaching mastermind. I'm like, hey, right on. I'm very happy to do that because I think we as men, if I just narrow down my experience, growing up in the generation I grew up in, there's a lot of male toxicity, is what I'll call it, for lack of a better phrase. You have to be a man. You're not allowed to cry, and these manly rules that come with that. And if you stay in that box, well, then, yeah, I can't turn around and face my demons. I'm not allowed to cry when my daughter dies. All these things that come with that. So they're afraid to face it in their world. So they get really squirrely when you start talking about them to them. If that makes sense.
It makes perfect sense, mate. And what I'm seeing here is you hit the nail on the head. This idea of courage,
Mm.
this sheer determination that people like us have. That in the face of any adversity, we just push on through it. Where there are many people who are completely disabled and debilitated by these really dire situations. I was
Hmm.
watching a video the other day, and there was a survey that was done. I don't know the institution that did it, but they interviewed thousands of entrepreneurs and wannabe entrepreneurs, and they asked them one question. They said, have you ever had a point in time where there was no turning back? You were kind of had this all in moment where essentially if things didn't go to plan, you would lose everything. And the common theme was that the wannabe entrepreneurs didn't have that situation. They were
Yeah.
always playing it safe. And then the veteran entrepreneurs had at least had one no turning back moment. And I'm sure that you've had a few no turning back moments in your day, mate.
Yeah, just a few. I mean, if I go with the drug scene story, here's what's funny about that story. And I'm not telling you the story to brag about it because trust me, I'm not proud of it, but there's a lesson there. I right out of high school, I joined the military for 6 years. I came back with a great skill set and a passion around computers, right about the time of the dot-com boom. And so I was out there with my own little computer consulting company, programming computers for insurance preferred provider organizations, right? Okay. And I had the first real money in my pocket in the bank account, just landed a new big client. I was going out to party with the guys to celebrate. And this is about the time, if you've seen that movie Blow with Johnny Depp, same time frame, right? So
Yep.
that stuff was everywhere, and I was in Southern California. So as we're out there enjoying shooting some pool, drinking beers, having a good time, someone breaks out some. In my case, it was speed, and unfortunately, I gave in to the peer pressure and I tried it. And given I just landed this new client, it was like there was this timeline, like, oh, this is awesome. I could be awake for 3 days and get all kinds of great stuff done. Which, you know what, like anything, the first time you have a couple of beers, you get that little buzz. It's all fun and names, but then you could turn alcoholic or you could turn a drug addict. And that's what happened to me is I took that downhill slide. And unfortunately, I had some great people skills. So while my legal business went downhill, my illegal business went uphill and I started, hiring a crew of salesmen, lack of a better phrase. And what happened over time, it took about 2 years I was doing this. And finally, police come knocking at my door. Actually, they kicked the door in and raided my condo. And so that was a come to Jesus moment. That was, I mean, I was all in a illegal sense and in a bad way. Now, luckily, I wasn't there when they raided the place. I arrived the next morning, and so I didn't get arrested. I got taken down to the police and interviewed. And unfortunately, as they were asking their questions, they knew way too many names. And that was me as I was walking back out of the police station, walking back home. It was like I could have went back and had that attitude like, oh man, I got these guys beat, right? They let me go. And no, I realized they knew way too many names, too high up. It was time for me to get out, to go the other way, cut it all off, jump off the bridge and grow wings on the way down towards the legal side. And so that prompted a phone call to mom and dad because I had a 3-month-old daughter. And so my dad, had always raised me with his family first, family first. And that was really, I think, what turned my head around was it's not me anymore. I'm not hosing up my life. So that turned me to go all in to getting clean and back up on my feet in a legal sense. So I had experienced that total falling to the bottom. And I had made a way in the bottom illicitly and fell again. And it's like, okay, I got to scratch my way to the top on the right side of the track. So yeah, and that's a lesson learned. And you see so many people, if they won't turn, and I keep repeating this because I think it's so powerful, they've got to turn around and stare right into the abyss. Do this, go into your bathroom, turn on that single light over your mirror in your bathroom, just that light, everything else is off, and look yourself in the eyes. That's it. And ask yourself those poignant questions. All right, I hosed up, I messed up, I got divorced, I did whatever it is. But why? What was missing in your life, right? What is it you were trying to get? And if you can be honest with yourself at moments like that, there's no one else. You're not trying to impress Tracy or Jackson or anyone else out there. You're just talking to you, and whoever you believe in that, looks over us. And, give yourself some honest answers and do some little, scratch around soul searching. Get a coach, get a mentor, somebody, there are meetings out there for folks like that. There's some value, I'm sure.
100%. Wow, that's powerful, mate. Look, I think this really highlights the power of reflection, in my opinion. I
Mhm.
talk a lot about this, is that most people don't reflect often enough on what's happened in the past because, as it was famously said by Winston Churchill, those who fail to learn from history are bound to repeat it. And it's no
Yes.
surprise that guys like us, we end up in these vicious cycles, and we're often the last person to the party to realize, like, oh shit, I'm being an idiot here. I've got to pull my socks up and sort my shit out. So,
Yeah,
so
right?
this is why we need good mentors, and particularly in entrepreneurship, because there are so many hard-headed entrepreneurs out there that are trying to prove something to themselves that they can make it on their own 2 feet. They can make it and be hugely successful under the theme of their own power, right? But you talk about the 6 C's of entrepreneurship. So talk to me about these 6 C's and how can they help entrepreneurs to kind of overcome adversity?
I think one of the things that comes with the masculine toxicity earlier, I think that's one of the mindsets that we as people are instilled in us. Hey, if you can make it on your own, you're even better than if you got help. Luckily, my time in the military and my dad being 23 years in the military, you learn the value of a team, right? It could be a small, compact team. I know when you're going on basic movements, and I'll get to the 6 C's here in just a moment, the basic team in the military could be like 6 to 8 people, right? But when you get to those elite teams, they're still not going solo. They're going on 3-man teams and they're carrying the same amount of gear as a 6-man team. They've just upped their skills. They've increased their ability to execute at a higher level, but they're still relying on each other to get stuff done. So, the going alone is awesome. The teamwork, you're going to get that. That's what makes the dream work, right? Okay. So the 6 C's, I think, are huge because they help you narrow down, raising your level a bit. The first one is all about clarity. It's a process of ideation and research and brainstorming when it comes to coming up with that idea. But then it goes down to, who is your audience? What is the problem you're trying to serve? And man, we've probably heard this 1,000 times. But isn't that true with so many of the real truisms of life, right? The Stoics were telling them way back before Jesus and anyone else, and here they are, sometimes the same truists. But it's all about who it is you serve, what problem you're solving for them. Once you can zero in, you can really make that connection, which is the second C. So you can identify and find and connect with your core audience, right? The folks that are like, oh yeah, all right, Jackson, he's got this thing. I hear that money guy. He's that connection guy. I'm good with that. But inside of that is your tribe. So if you have an audience of 1,000, there's probably 100 people inside there that are just like, every time Tracy or Jackson comes out with someone, they're just taking their card. They're like, here, take it, buy from me, right? Because you connect with them at a different level. Okay. But you're not trying to sell to them. You're just building a nice serve. And you do that through communication, which is your next C, by sharing your story, much like we're doing here, helping you establish that rapport and that credibility and the value that you offer to them before you've even tried to sell them anything. And you can use, there's problem solving formulas. You're probably aware of them that you can use in creating copy. And that copy can be an elevator pitch all the way up to a manifesto, if that's your thing. Then you finally get to the fourth C, which everyone jumps to first too often. It's called capitalization, right? You want to monetize your mission. It's not all about making money, but like Zig Ziglar says, money's right up there with oxygen. It's kind of important. But inside of that, you also want to be able to, you want to charge what you're worth, creating those multiple revenue streams. And inside of that, I keep reminding folks to stop trading hours for dollars. That will only take you so far. Start trading value for dollars, creating digital courses, putting out quality content that you can create once and sell many times. But that's going to need you to commitment, creating a solid plan of action, holding yourself accountable, commit yourself to your own success, commit yourself to the success of the very people you're trying to serve. Again, this comes back to having a coach or an accountability partner. And then finally, the sixth C is that cultivation, right? Empowering yourself and your beliefs so that you can overcome whatever doubt or procrastination that is keeping you from shining as bright as you're able to shine.
I love that, mate. That's really clear and concise. There's another two C's for you. And this is the interesting point. Now, you brought this up, that people are too quick to jump into the capitalization. And this is where entrepreneurs really get this wrong. Because
Mhm.
I think entrepreneurship is tough. The failure rates are high. People need to make money, because if they are jumping out of a corporate career and they're getting into business, it's not an easy transition, and it's not
Yeah.
like a light switch that you go from your corporate salary into making the same amount of money in your entrepreneurial journey. So capitalization is where people jump to, but this ends up costing them huge. So talk me through, and I guess where people get caught up here, Tracy, is that time for money trap that you were talking about. How do people ensure that they lead with value and that what they charge is actually a consequence of the value that they deliver? It's just a byproduct of the value they deliver. How do they go about that?
Well, if we're talking about our beginning entrepreneurs, this is probably where we're going to zero in for a bit. It's all about bringing that value first. So if I'm talking to some wannabe entrepreneur that's like, dude, I'm ready to get out, I'm ready to escape the cubicle. One of the first things they can start doing is just like share their knowledge, their content, their value on Facebook Lives. Right. Or whatever social media they may be or their audiences is most active on. And people will start being drawn to them. And what's going to happen is they're going to start asking them questions. Oh, you were talking about those 6 C's. Can you share with me a bit more about cultivation? Through that listening, right, that communication, that two-way street in the C's, you're going to start learning what it is they're really hungry for. So now you can turn around and say, oh, well, here's what I'm going to do. I'm putting together this workshop, whatever tool or mechanism you want to use. Let's all get together. Who'd be interested to getting together on, July 21st at 6 p.m. to talk about cultivation, or talk about capitalization, and people will start raising their hand. You could even tell them in the Facebook, hey, it's going to be 27 bucks, whatever, right? Get them in the door, give them that value for free or next to free. I'm a big fan of doing a low ticket like that, because now you're getting rid of those folks that are just looking for the freebies. There's 1,000 of them. Someone's willing to put in a few dollars, not a lot, just a few dollars, to say, you know what, I want to listen to what Tracy has to say. And they've stepped up, they've ponied up to the table, right? They're really interested. Odds are they're going to show, and they're going to engage with you. They're like, hey, can you go deeper here? Can you go deeper there? Well, now you've got the beginnings of what will be later on a digital product that you can sell over and over and over again, for heck, they'll probably tell you, you know what, I'm willing to spend, 97, 197, 397 on the content you just gave me. They're going to tell you, they're willing to tell you. And then you can turn around and say, you know what, I'm going to sell that for 97. Just rinse and repeat over and over and over again. And now those, like, Jackson says, Tracy, I really want to pick your brain even more one-on-one. Well, now it's worth more than $97 because you just put that on a digital course. So now you can stop spending your time, those trading the hours for dollars for small money, and level up. And you could even say, hey, let's do it in a group first. I got 4 people that raised their hands. All right, okay, 4 people, 197 a month. You can do the math in your head real fast. And then someone inside that group is probably going to say, dude, this group thing is awesome, but I really need your time on X, Y, or Z. Now you step it up again. So you create this value ladder that goes up and up and up. And then finally, people are going to start telling that $27 workshop you did, you should never offer that less than $97. Okay. And just start doing that. Keep bringing the value, and people are going to you're underselling yourself, but you've got to feel like you're worth it, right?
100%. And I think that's the biggest challenge here, right? Because I feel that most corporate escapees have been trained that the only value they have is the time that they invest, because they've been conditioned that their only
Yeah.
value is to sit behind a desk for 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. And unless they're sitting behind the desk, they're not being of value.
Right.
But the analogy that I always use is, well, would you prefer to go to a master dentist who is going to charge you $1,000 and is going to fix your tooth in 2 minutes with zero pain? Or would you prefer to go to the trainee dental clinic and have somebody who's a first year who's going to do it for free, but give you 4 hours of excruciating pain? Because you're not buying the
Yes.
time, you're buying the outcome. And this is where
Yeah,
most
you're
corporate
buying that
escapees need to get their
experience.
mind. You're buying the experience, 100%.
There's a gentleman I'm aware of. He does sound. He used to be a rapper, went on tour with a couple of big name rappers, and decided he was spending too much time away from his newborn daughters and his wife. So he decided to literally he was out on tour with his second world tour, and just said, I can't do this anymore, right? The alcohol, the drugs, and everything. Stepped away, got clean, and decided to take that skill set that he had with being able to create music and lyrics and put it into a business environment. So you could come to him and say, I want you to create a jingle. He doesn't like to call them jingles, so he would shoot me hearing this. I want you to create me a piece of music to go with this event, the opening of the event. I want you to create the intro and the outro to my podcast, right? And he has this skill set that he's done it a couple of times on Facebook Lives, where he'll create something out of random from the audience in like 12 minutes. And it's bomb. You're like, what? And he charges a good, pretty penny for that. He's like, you're not paying me 12 minutes for creating this. You're paying me for the 20 years of experience that enables me to do this in 12 minutes.
Exactly.
Right?
Nailed it. Yeah, that's exactly right. I think people overlook that. And this is about conditioning your clients as much as it is conditioning yourself to realize that the time doesn't even matter. So that's great. So Tracy, who's an ideal client for you, mate? Who are you looking to connect with? Who can you add the most value to?
Let's see, if we're talking about podcasts, it will be those folks that are they're like, dude, I want to get into the podcasting game. Or maybe they're in and they're like, I don't know why. I'm kind of wandering around. I can't seem to get any, listeners. Usually there's a clarity issue we can zero in on. Those are the perfect folks. Your solo indiepreneurs resonate with me real well. If you're like still listening to this episode by now, you're probably I'm going to go off on a brief tangent. I think being you, right? And we had this discussion when we were talking before on my podcast. Just come to the marketplace as who you are. Don't put on any face. I'm not Tony Robbins. I'm not Jim Rohn. I learned from them. I've studied them, but that's not who I am. I'm Tracy Brinkman. That's it. And as long as you be you, you can start attracting those folks that resonate with you. So I attract with, those folks that are like, you know what? I'm going to make shit happen. That's all there is to it. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but maybe this guy, Tracy, can help me. So those kind of solo and entrepreneurs that have that dark horse mentality, I'm going to knuckle down. I'm going to crack it. I'm not doing the work for you. You're going to do the work. If you're looking for someone to do it for you, I'm not your guy. Right. And then, I think finally, I'm picking off too many. We're working with a lot of small business, local businesses, like, an auto detail shop who just wants to, build up his business. He started it off saying, okay, it was a great way to make money, but now I want to level up. Now it's time to bring in a team to do this so that I can start. I don't own a job. Now I own a business, which, as you know, are completely different animals.
100%. Awesome, mate. So if anybody's listened to this and they've resonated with what you've had to say, Tracy, and they want to get in touch, what's the best way for them to connect with you?
Currently, the best way is to go to darkhorseschooling.com. And you'll see everything about the Dark Horse Entrepreneur in the podcast. And there's a coaching page. You can put in your information, ask your question, and let's get engaged. I'm very active on Facebook. All the social links are on the website up there on the upper right-hand side. So you can just connect with me right straight through there.
Beautiful, mate. Fantastic. And if you had to give one last piece of advice to the listeners as a parting note, what would you say?
Have a star aim, right? And this almost comes back to the 6 C's. And your star aim, what is it? It comes back to what's your special subject matter that you bring, right? You're the master of, right? And that's your S. And then who's your tribe? Right? Who do you serve? There's your T. Where do you want to take them? Right? What is the A they're going to arrive to? Where are you going to take them? And why should they listen to you? Why are they going to resonate? What's that reason they should listen to you? And then having an alluring, inspiring message. So you put all that together and you've got a star aim. If you can wrap that up in a pretty little bow and go out to the market, you're going to attract some folks that like you.
This has been fantastic. You've shared some bombs of wisdom, so I really appreciate it, mate. So, guys, if you want to get in touch with Tracy, all the details are in the show notes. I appreciate you tuning in for another episode of Enjoy the Journey podcast. Tracy, thanks again, mate. It's been a pleasure, and look forward to chatting again soon.
Absolutely. Anytime. Thanks so much.